Are we on the internet? Hello again, this is Foghorn with another installment of Flight School Academics for this, the 30th of March 2949, or 2019 for those that are stuck in the past. This presentation is part of an ongoing series of academics for the members of the Aurora Republic, the premier role-playing organization in Star Citizen. If you are new to the Aurora Republic or visiting for the very first time, let me start by saying welcome. We are glad to have you with us and would love to hear from you if you'd like to hear more from us. We're a lawful good organization focused on roleplay exploration and social interaction and are currently active in recruiting on Spectrum and Discord. Before we get started tonight, first I'd like to take a moment and say welcome to our newest member, Tin Man, who joined us this week and has been experiencing all of the fun of trying to get logged into Star Citizen for the first time. So welcome, brother. Glad to have you with us. Don't see any guests in the chat with us today. A few announcements. If you have not seen the announcement on Spectrum or repeated throughout our Discord, the $0 CCUs are going the way of the dodo, and they're going that way very quickly. By 3 April, they will no longer be available for purchase in the Pledge Store. And then by 1 May, all $0 CCUs are also going to be completely eliminated out of the game. So if you have any, if you want to purchase any, then you have got until the 3rd of April to purchase them. And if you have any sitting in your inventory that have not been used yet, you got until the 1st of May. And then they're a dot and never to return. So you've been more than fairly warned. We might do one more heads up just prior to the 1 May deadline as well. Recruiting drive, next stage of the recruiting drive is going on. So this time we have an Avenger Stalker starter pack up for grabs. So get out there, beat the bushes, pimp out your family, pimp out your friends, just like any good American should. To see if you can get them to join up, and we'll keep track just like we did last time. Rules engagement, we're streaming this on Twitch, so there's about an 8-second delay from when I say something before it comes out over there. I will be monitoring the Twitch chat, so if you ask a question there, I will repeat it, assuming I see it in a timely fashion. I will repeat it for the recording, and then, of course, I will answer it to the best of my ability. We also, if you are listening in Discord as well, feel free also to come up in there and just ask in real time. And stop me as we go. Tonight, what we're going to talk about is the new flight model that is currently in 3.5, Alpha 3.5 PTU. So all of the folks who have access into the PTU have been playing with it for a couple of weeks, couple of days, weeks, couple of hours, depending on who you are. And so considering we are at the end of the quarter, and like tonight or tomorrow is when 3.5 should drop to the persistent universe, maybe Monday at the latest, because it's 1 April is its due date. So pretty much everybody should get their hands on this here pretty darn soon. So let's go through this real quick, and I'll jump in and do a little demo of it too. So it's a whole new ball game, folks. So we're going to talk a few of the new concepts to it. First off, they removed a lot of stuff that you're used to. Okay, the previous standard, whatever it was, space combat maneuvering mode, flight mode, the precision flight mode, those are basically gone in their current iteration. Those are a dot. So is boost and afterburner. The switch for the comm stab and the switch for the G-safe up there in your HUD and the ESP switch up there are no longer displayed. Those switches are still selectable, and there is still a version of the comm stab and G-safe that are operating, but that HUD element up there showing you that whether they're on or off is no longer displayed, and I'll show you the new HUD too here in a minute. The HUD has changed quite a bit along with the flight model, so now the left side no longer is showing you like a speed that is part velocity. It's not showing you a speed along the direction of travel that the nose is pointing. It's actually just showing you a pure non-vector speed scale. So it'll show you whatever your speed is in whichever way the vector happens to be. You have something called a throttle limiter now too that is defaulted to be changeable via your mouse wheel, unless you if you're using maybe a stick or a stick and throttle, dual sticks, something like that. You can obviously bind that to another place as you want it. SCM reference also is in the HUD, and like I said, I got some pictures here, so I'll talk more to that as I have something to actually show you in front of you. Really, in place of the afterburner and the boost capabilities that they used to have, the way it's mech'd now, really the best word I can think for it is an overthruster, and that is based off of, that's a term that I pulled from some old the expansion module from the old tabletop BattleTech game called Aerotech, which is their description of an overthruster is basically the way this works now, where it's basically afterburner in any direction, depending on or overthrust on any thruster on the spacecraft. Cruise control toggle, which I'll also show you and discuss at length how that works, and then of course all of this is really comes down to what's new in the HUD, because all of that goes right to what's new in the mechanization. So the performance and handling is going to be completely new. You are going to have to take about an hour of your time and go into Arena Commander Free Flight, and you are going to have to rebind keys. Okay? Not absolutely all of them, but they're, because the schema has changed enough that you're going to have to do some tweaking to what you have bound to which keys, and to just fly around a little bit and play with it and figure it out. So your ability to turn the velocity vector, not your nose, but the velocity vector, is literally, inversely proportional to the speed you're going. The faster you go, the less the slower that you can change the direction of that velocity vector. So when that SCM reference is nothing more than a tick mark on the speed bar that is basically what used to be military power without using any afterburner. That number hasn't changed, so if it was, and I'm making numbers up off the top of my head because I don't remember, but if it was like 200 meters per second for the Avenger, now if you're in the Avenger on the HUD, there's a little red tick mark on the speed scale on the left side that's right beside where 200 is, to let you know that, hey, you're basically within what used to be that and less is basically the old SCM maneuvering speeds. If you are at that reference or less, then you're really going to have little or no slide. In other words, the thrusters on the spacecraft are strong enough at those slower speeds to be able to move the velocity vector at about the same rate that you can move the nose. Unless you really slam the stick all the way to the firewall, the velocity vectors are going to basically pretty well keep up with where your gun cross is sliding across the sky. It's going to also be sliding across with it, or just very little bit behind it. If you're much past that SCM reference, then you can expect you're going to be sliding your butt off, like you're out on a dirt track racing, or if you're driving out on ice. Your nose is going to be able to rotate away from your direction of movement a heck of a lot faster than your thrusters are going to be able to move that velocity vector around the corner. And the faster and farther you are above that SCM reference, the worse it's going to slide. So now, man, speed control is king. Thrusters are weaker. Weaker is probably the wronger word. I should say they're more proportional to their size and everything. So your big monster thruster engines on the back of the spacecraft can propel you in a straight line really fast and accelerate you very quickly. But those little itty bitty, baseball-sized thrusters, little ball thrusters that are all over on the different points on the ship, aren't going to be able to push sideways hard enough to be able to move that vector around. If the speed part of the vector is very large. The overthrust, what we used to call afterburner or boost, controls acceleration, not speed. The speed limiter is exactly what its name is. That line that you set, you go, okay, I don't want to go any faster than 400 meters per second. If you just simply use the thrust, the throttle, or if you're using like a dual stick, the stick, to thrust up to that, it will go up at its normal acceleration up to that point, and then it'll stop accelerating. It'll stop at that point. If you mash down on the overthruster, whichever button you have that, then that acceleration will be much faster. However, it comes at a cost of heat and a lot of it. You literally cannot mash on that overthruster button for very long before you start getting heat warnings on your thrusters. Now, cruise control is an interesting one. It's probably the most important for the folks out there while you're learning. When the cruise control toggle does not default on, it defaults off. So you roll your mouse wheel or wherever you have it keybound to and set your speed limiter, and nothing happens on the jet other than you just see a line move up and down on your speed control. So you set your max speed that you want to go, and then you thrust. And in any direction, by the way, that speed limiter is not forward. That speed limiter is in any direction. It won't let you go any faster than this speed. So you just thrust in whichever direction you want to go, and off you go. So just kind of admin flying isn't that big of a deal. If you click cruise control on, then the IFCS automatically thrusts in whichever direction you're pointing up and drives it up to that thrust limit. So in other words, if you take your thrust limit control, so if it's your mouse wheel, for say, and you click on cruise control toggle, you toggle it on, now your mouse wheel literally becomes a throttle like HOTAS. You just roll it forward, and as that line comes off of zero and moves up, your thrusters accelerate the jet up to that speed. And the same thing as you roll it down, your thrusters retro thrust and slow you down to whatever that speed is. So for the new flyer or for just sort of admin flying, I predict most folks are probably just going to, take off, suck the gear up, click on cruise control, and then just use whatever slider, throttle, or mouse wheel that they have set for the speed limiter, and they're just going to use it like a throttle, because that's very, very simple. Now, combat becomes more difficult. Not more difficult, but there's more going on. So we're going to talk about the new HUD. Oh, by the way, the new HUD has size issues. Don't we all? So for those who haven't been in the PTU to see it yet, that's the new HUD right there. Me sitting in an Arena Commander in a Avenger Titan. And this has already been reported. CIG is aware of it, and this was not their intention for it to be that small. So it's supposed to be about twice that big, as I understand it, based on the blah blah that's going around on the Spectrum. Can I get? Where's my laser pointer? I need a laser pointer. Boom. All right, so I'm going to sit here and tap dance for about 8 seconds while I look at my laptop with the feed to see if. Okay, cool. You guys can see the laser pointer, it looks like. All right, so speed scale is on the left. The number on the inside is your current speed, so as you can see, I'm sitting down. Gun cross is the same. The big bar on the right is fuel, so you can see I've got 85% hydrogen fuel left. Out on the outside of the speed scale right there, you will see a red dash. That is the SCM speed for this Avenger Titan, which I think is 190, 195 for the Titan off the top of my head. And the longer line on the inside, light green line, is the limiter. So right at this instant, the limiter is set at roughly about the SCM reference, slightly more, probably 200, where it defaulted to. But you notice that just because that is set there, I'm not actually moving because I haven't commanded any thrust yet. That's just where it'll limit me to. Countermeasures are in the middle there. You got this weird little dot with the four-way radiation, or little hash marks going out from it. That is a symbol that you're in like normal capability of thrust. In other words, you are not using the overthruster. When you mash down on your old afterburner button, then that disappears long enough that disappears the entire time while you are using some sort of overthrust. And the second you let it off, so that's to tell you that you're using normal thrust. In the very center, you now have a G meter, which this is pretty interesting because at least the Titan, its normal non-overthrusted accelerations is pretty much 9 Gs in any direction, which is effing insane. But, hey, cool, video game. And with overthrust, I've seen 18.5 Gs out of it. So I'm like, I wonder if that's actually accurate. And then I believe this is quantum fuel down here, but I haven't actually experimented with that. Actually, I should have been telling you with this one so you can see my exploded up bigger one so it's a little easier to see. So like I said, the red hash is at the SCM reference. The longer green one on the inside is the speed limiter, and that one will move up or down depending on what you're doing with your mouse wheel or what other control you've bound it to. There's a couple other symbols that show up here. So this right now here is your gear down symbol. So if it's absent, then your gear is up. If that symbol is present, then the gear is down. Obviously, the flight path marker, also known as the velocity vector, will be wherever you're thrusting towards. As you can see, I've got the speed limiter set at about 46. So like I said, you don't have precision mode anymore. Throwing your gear down doesn't change your IFCS anymore. You don't automatically get, cool, I'm limited to 50 meters per second on this fighter, or 30 meters per second on this big fat ship, just because I have the gear down. You actually just set your speed limiter for that, and you can have it, Burger King Jet, you can have it your way. It doesn't have to be 50 meters per second. If 50 meters per second still feels too fast for you when you're trying to land, then dial that thing down to 30 meters per second, and now you won't have the ability to go any faster than that because you've told the computer to limit you to that. Now, if you click on cruise control, then you will get this light green arrow over to the left that is always glued to where the speed limiter is, to tell you that, okay, we are going to, without you having to command any specific thrusting of any specific thrusters, just with your speed limiter, as you move your speed limiter up or down, we are going to thrust appropriately to bring your speed up to meet that or back to meet that, depending on what you're doing, whether you're trying to slow down or speed up. So in other words, it turns this whole system basically into a classic throttle like HOTAS. It's just like you have a throttle over there and you just push it up and it goes faster, and you pull it back and it goes slower. It works like that. Now, the bigger you build the speed and the more you make a big massive change in that speed limiter, these thrusters don't have enough oompah in them to be able to just instantaneously make these speed changes. So you have to play your decelerations and your accelerations. You have to think ahead, because these things don't just start and stop on a dime. If you're up here running at 600 meters per second and you slam the throttle, using cruise control, you slam the speed limiter, so this whole thing works like a throttle. You slam it back down here to 50 meters per second. You're not going to go from 600 meters per second down to 50 meters per second in half a second. You're gonna with the thrusters all retro firing at their max. It's gonna take but not using overthruster. It's gonna take a little bit to bleed off all that speed, just like in real flying. And then, of course, you always have the option to mash the overthruster, the space brake, as it was used to be called, and it will do the same. And just like the overthruster, it will increase double, maybe triple that acceleration or deceleration rate, depending on which way you're using it. So now, as you can see, I did this here, so I got a little bit of its strafe going on here. I'm not just going straight forward, because the flight path marker would hide underneath the gun cross and reticle. So while I was doing this and snapping this photo, I just given a little bit of right stick just to put me in about 5 degrees of a strafe, just to bring the symbol out from in front of it, from behind the gun cross. Okay. So if you stick your speed limiter way up high here, and I still got this in cruise control, so I just did that just by moving the throttle, basically. You'll see that as the bar builds in speed, getting you climbing up towards where you have that limiter. When it goes over that old SEM speed, you'll see that you're up into this red region, which is telling you that, hey, up here, you know, you're going really fast in a straight line, but you're going to have a hard time turning. And oh, by the way, you can see I'm doing 8.4 Gs of acceleration straight ahead, because here's the flight path marker hiding underneath the gun cross and reticle. With the gear down, by the way, I'm doing 513 meters per second with the gear down at 8.4 Gs. Cruise control, just to, you know, basically just to have a photo and show you that I could. Okay, so if there isn't any questions yet, then I'm gonna Alt Tab over here into Lay Video Game. All right, and I'm gonna go into Arena. Is there a question? No? Okay. So I'm going to go into Arena Command here and show you a little bit in action. I'll go in and do free flight just so I can sort of dick around and talk all at the same time. Let's see what I'm going to grab. Probably the Titan is what I was using, so... Good Lord. Okay. Okay, so here we are in the Avenger Titan in free flight, and right now you can see I can move the speed limiter up and down with, I have this key bound to the slider. I'm using, I'm dual stick with T16000Ms, Thrustmaster T16000Ms. So I have one of the little slider throttles on the 16000M key bound to be my speed limiter, basically like a throttle. So that's what's moving up and down over on the left side there right now. So as you can see, I can put it wherever I want. So I put up here on that tick right there. And now if I just grab the stick and I thrust forward, you see it accelerates me up to that spot and then stops. If I let go, so I'm just now back to neutral stick, no stick inputs, you see it will slow me back down to 0. Same thing if I go backwards, I'm pulling back on the stick, my left, my straight stick. And you can see now I'm doing the same exact speed, but I'm going in reverse. Same thing if I let go, back to neutral on the stick, it'll stop. Same thing if you go sideways, it'll accelerate up to that speed sideways with whatever capabilities that those side thrusters have. There's a very good chance I'm going to blow myself up several times doing this because I'm not looking where I'm going, so I may smash into stuff while I'm talking to you, so that's just Abby normal. Alright, same thing, you can go in any of the 6 axes and you'll see it will accelerate you up to whatever that speed limiter is. So get in here and play with it a little bit, and oh, by the way, fully expect that you're going to smash into stuff for the first 5 or 10 minutes while you're kind of figuring it out. It's not excessively hard, but you will fly yourself into what we metaphorically call the square corner. You know, because if you do this way up here and you jam down on the throttle, this thing will just keep building. I'm not using any overthrust at all. It's just the plain vanilla dry thrust, as we call it. So if you try to get up here and get to the max speed, you know, okay, so I'm up here at 1113, you're going to see this and you're going to go crap, and you're not going to be able to turn before you smash into stuff. So Arena Commander has not changed in its size. However, it's gotten very small, even though it has not physically changed in size, because your ability to rip across it, or I should say, your ability to stop yourself or turn once you get up to that high speed is very, very limited now with this new flight model. So in other words, it's really all about speed control. You're going to find that most of the fighting is going to happen, if you can see my little thing, the speeds that you're going to fight at are going to be down here in the bottom quadrant of the speed regime. All right, so I have a button key bound to turn on and off cruise control, which you can see over there on the left. That little arrow is coming on and on. Now I have that while I have the slider that I have the speed limiter set down to 0. So if I turn on cruise control, now when I just move the speed limiter, it now behaves like a throttle, as you can see here. So this now makes the whole thing fly more like an airplane. You just have to remember that, yeah, I can mash this throttle forward or back really fast, faster than the thrusters can change the speed. Oh, by the way, that's actually very realistic in fighters, by the way. You can move the throttle a hell of a lot faster than the engine can change the speed of the jet. So as you can see, where you can see the flight path marker is way off to the right. I'm just pushing a little bit left. I'm hardly turning the nose, but these thrusters are doing everything they can to get that flight path marker over on the right to slide across space and catch up to where my nose is. So I could actually be shooting off axis to where the flight path marker is. If I slow down, then you'll see as this thing slows down that as you get down slower, now it can make the thrusters will have enough thrust to be able to move that flight path marker back around to where your nose is. So if you stay down in low speed, you'll notice that the velocity vector moves to your nose much faster. If you really demand max turn rate, you can still turn faster than the flight path marker can chase you, but when you're down slow like this, it's not that big of a deal. You're really not going to go sliding around too much, hitting stuff. If you get up here and start going fast, then you notice that it really takes a lot to get that thing to move, and you're going to be doing a lot of Tokyo drift. Now, if you mash down on the overthruster, this could be bad. Oh, saved it. Alright, so just missed smashing on the boundary by the skin of my teeth. Okay, so if you set your... I'll turn the cruise control off. So if you set your speed limiter up high at some point, and now you start thrusting to get up there, you see it takes a little while for it to build up there. However, if you use the overthruster, so I'm going to do the same thing, and now I'm going to punch the overthruster, you'll see it accelerates much faster. But you also see how fast it starts overheating. So now, same thing if I hit the space brake, which is just overthruster in reverse. Overthruster pointed the other way. And again, it'll start overheating your flight control system very quickly. Your thrusters will overheat themselves. If you already have the speed limiter set somewhere and you just kick on the cruise control, then it'll already start accelerating to that speed limit that you have set. Other than that, the rest of the flight controls actually feel pretty much like you always are used to as far as how they work. They definitely feel like they're working better than they would be, and I did go into Arena Commander and shoot up some swarms, Vandal and Pirate swarms using this, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. All of my deaths in both swarms were all self-inflicted because of learning the new flight model. Managed to go sliding myself out of the boundary a lot. So, if here you are, and you're fighting over on one side of the arena, out near the boundary, and you're pow shooting up the guy, you blow up the guy you're fighting, and now you look off across the Arena Commander arena, and you see your buddies are over there, and they're all twisted up in a dogfight, but they're 8 or 10 kilometers. Absolutely, get some overthrust going to get yourself over there fast, but you need to plan your deceleration because it's going to take a while for you to slow down. The last thing you want to do is, if they're 8-10 kilometers away, is go rocketing across Arena Commander Arena and then wait till you get there and then try to be slowing down, because then you're probably going to go slingshotting past them. You're going to blow through that merge. You can see how I'm already starting to see the opposite side boundary. Just that fast. That's it in a nutshell as far as just the handling of the new model. Alright, so some of the things you're going to have to keybind. So keybind, like I said, I use sticks. So I'll just show you those. Things that are new. I don't think there was anything new in flight. I think it's all in movement. You'll notice that your roll, pitch, and yaws and strafes do not have a decoupled cousin. So whatever you set for one does it for the other as well. So if you set, whatever for pitch, that's both pitch, whether it's decoupled or not. You still have the swap yaw and roll toggle. That still exists. Match target velocity. That still exists. Space brake. But now you have these speed limiters. So speed limiter relative and speed limiter absolute, those are axes. So it needs to be on something like a slider or a throttle or your mouse wheel. The speed limiter increase or decrease is if you put it on an actual like keyboard key where it's, tap, 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 incremental digital increase, one button. You still have your decoupled mode toggle. However, over here in game settings, up front, you have a, where is it? Coupled mode toggle. If you have this turned off, then this decoupled mode toggle turns into a decoupled mode momentary. Those are new right there. The speed limiter toggle and cruise control toggles are new as well. I guess they're still calling it afterburner instead of overthrust, but which is fine. That's, hey, their game. They can call it whatever they want. And I think that's really about it as far as flight model stuff. Yeah, I think that's about it for flight model. How flight model changed option menus. So, like I said, you're gonna need to take a little time to get in here and just kind of drive around, get a feel for it. Go fly in close to some asteroids and get a feel for what speed does to your maneuverability. And how you're going to slide around stuff, and how to use your afterburner, your overthrusters, to reorient your flight path marker. Obviously, there's still G effects. You still get some gray and red, but it doesn't seem anywhere near as bad. I haven't actually grayed myself out. I haven't blacked out or redded out yet, and I've been trying hard. So, yeah, you're driving on a dirt track. Any questions on any of this? Anything you want to see me do with it real quick before we go finish this off? Oh yeah, landing. Let's do that. Alright, so like I said, let me turn cruise control off. When I'm coming in for landing, I would just simply make sure I'm off of cruise control. I would set my speed limiter to something roughly 50, because that's what we're kind of used to. Put your gear down. And now you can thrust in any direction you want, in any way you want, in any manner that you want. And it should be no different than it ever was, because you still have a limit of only 50 meters per second. You're just doing it with that speed limiter. Boom. Down on the ground. Well. Anyway.
Foghorn, how about the engine start, flight ready, and seat exit?
No change except for that H is no longer seat exit. I believe it's U. Nope. Y. Yankee. Bonk. Yankee is seat exit. U is flight ready. Of course, you can always still do everything via interaction modes. Bonk. Okay, so let's just do that. Keybinds for flight. All right, so some of the keys have changed a little bit. Charlie is now cruise control on or off. November, Bravo, Mike are all still what they were. Victor is decouple mode toggle. Countermeasures are golf and hotel. Yankee is exit seat, long press to eject. Uniform is flight ready. Engines are India. Or actually, I guess uniform is power on and off, and Romeo is flight ready, toggle gimbal mode. Those are probably the big ones. And they actually do appear to work as advertised. I've not tried all these function keys up here. Increase engine, decrease engine, all of those things. The external camera views all seem to work the same.
Flight ready is R.
Yeah, R. Romeo. I do not see anything that has changed for first person. Looks like everything is same for first person. Yep. So yeah, it's only some changes on the flight. One for keybinds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Lights is T for Tango, just like your out in FPS for T for turning on your flashlight. So T is also for turning on the ship lights. And I think I have the lights defaulted on. There's something nearby. Okay, gear up. So let me get over to next to something, but see if I got headlights on. Looks like I do. So Tango. Yep. Tango turns the headlights on and off, just like your suit flashlight. So at least they're getting smart, starting to unify controls between FPS and flight. So like I said, if I'm just driving around admin, I tend to do a lot of cruise control. And if you're going above that red line, you probably need to be going in a straight line. If you want to turn, you probably want to have your cruise control set down below that. Any other questions before we wrap this up? By the way, if you have cruise control turned off and you have the speed limiter set to 0, it doesn't matter. Your strafe stick now becomes dead because you've commanded zero speed limit, a speed limit of 0. So therefore, no matter, as you can see, the flight path marker is going around all over the screen because I'm sitting here moving my strafe stick around all over the place. You know, here I'll use the keyboard and try to strafe in any directions, and it doesn't go anywhere because you're set at 0. You got to set your speed up at something, and now you can thrust around. All right, that's it in a nutshell. So, exit to Menoir. All right. So yeah, it feels a lot like you're sliding around on a dirt track around ice if you're going fast. If you're going slow, it's actually not too crazy. Yeah. Yeah, McQueen says, no advanced keyboard settings anymore. Hoorah, huzzah, huzzah. That's true, 100%. That was the legacy binds from original dog finding module. They did that because folks whined when they changed them the last time. I guess they decided to make it all one. Yep. Cool, Sayo. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Why am I not? Come on. Maybe I got to turn the laser pointer off. There we go. Okay, so yeah, this is basically wrapping it up. Speed control is king. I found that it seems like the admin flying from A to B around in the PU seems to be easier. Dogfighting now has an added control that you're having to control. You're either having to mash cruise control on or off, or you're having to change your speed limiter settings in the middle of the fight, which is makes it a little more difficult, but the airplane handles better. So the fights tend to happen much slower in the speed regime. They tend to happen around the 200 to 300. Yes, SAO, I do like the new flight model overall. It still needs some tweaking, but it's definitely a night and day difference over the last one, which the last one was, a steaming pile of doggy dookie, in my opinion. If you're going to dash across distance to try to gap close for the next dog fight, you need to be thinking ahead. You got to be out thinking ahead of the jet and plan your deceleration, because otherwise you're going to go zipping by them in a beautiful blow-through maneuver that you did not intend, and then you may go cratering into something on the other side, like asteroids or the edge of the arena if you're playing an arena commander. Turn circles that I originally charged, they're starting to apply now. This is actually the helicopters on acid are pretty well gone. Now you can still circle strafe with this, but you basically have to bring the thing to a stop first, and then you can start sort of circle strafing. But it has been my very short-lived experience in 3 to 4 hours of playing with the new flight model that I think circle strafers are going to get pummeled. I think they're just going to get pummeled hardcore, because that advantage of having the comm stab do all the work for you. I just jam the stick where I want to go. I jam my strafe stick one direction and my rotation stick in the other direction, and the comm stab retro fires these overly powerful thrusters, unrealistically overpowerful thrusters, and slows me down to a speed that now I can actually circle strafe around somebody. Those days are gone. By the way, I also spent an hour out on the racetrack with my Razor trying to race with the new flight model, and it is freaking hard, dude. Holy crap. I suspect that there's probably track reworks coming, like just expanding them bigger. It's either that or races are going to be exceedingly slow, like Formula One. Oh, we made it up to a whole 90 miles an hour in the straight stretch. Woo, blow your skirt up. Because it was just that entire hour I was having a great time, but I blew up a whole lot, and I did a lot of sliding the spacecraft sideways beside the gate that I was supposed to go through, and not going through it, but going, oh crap, turn. With even Old Vanderval, which is the easy level out of the 3 racetracks, you spend so much of your time flying sideways through that as you're trying to move the velocity vector while you're going something resembling fast. I'm not even going to say as you're going fast, but something slightly resembling fast. That if people are using VoIP head tracking or track IR or something so you can turn the field of view and look out the side window and see where that flight path marker is, are going to have an advantage. I was not using either of those, and so I was just trying to kind of eyeball it by looking at all of those buildings and things that are on the edge of the track that you're trying to avoid, and just kind of guesstimating, okay, and watching the drift rate and try to guesstimate where my flight path marker was and see, because you're probably going to be going through a lot of these a lot of the whatever the gates, the circular gates that you have to fly through in the racetracks. You're probably going to be going through them sideways a lot of times. So it's a lot of fun. All right, that's it in a nutshell. So let's get in the verse and go fly. It's a free fly tonight because I know there's probably at least half and half who are going to be playing in 3.5 and who are going to be playing 3.4. So if we don't have any questions, I'll tap dance for a couple of more seconds. In case anybody else has anything else. Pistard 82. Hello, I am AAFR. I'm going to assume that means you're a Frenchman. So welcome. Thanks for coming to the stream, but we're actually almost done. Okay. I think I've tap danced long enough. That wraps up this installment of Academics of Foghorn. I hope you found it interesting and helpful. If you have any questions I didn't answer, please feel free to contact me via the old emails, the Discords, the Spectrums, or any of the comment sections below for the YouTubers later. I'll answer to the best of my ability as quickly as I can. If you are part of the Aurora Republic membership and you haven't hit the follow or subscribe, oh, by the way, if you have an Amazon Prime membership, you get a one free Twitch Prime subscription for free. But you have to re-up it every month. So if you've done that, if you have that, and you've given it to the Aurora Republic in the past, I would like to politely remind you to re-up it for us so that we can get some dinero off of that to put into the org and make great things happen for you guys. So to everybody else who hasn't followed or subscribed, please hit those buttons immediately, enable notifications, so that you can remain up to date when we stream or post new content. And if you're a visitor to this channel, please feel free to hit those same buttons and leave us feedback, because we actually do read it and it actually does help. You can find out more if you're interested in knowing more at our new and improved website at aurorarepublic.space. You can also find us on Spectrum at therobertspaceindustriescom/org/aurorarep. And if you're on Twitch or YouTube, then you already figured that out. So I will see you next time. This is Foghorn signing off, wishing you a pleasant remainder of your morning, afternoon, and or evening. And oh, by the way, thank you so very much for watching.